As I understand it, we're missing Jackie
Yeah,
this evening.
I just sent her a text. I don't know if she said she wasn't logging in, but I just sent her a text.
Okay.
Well, there's one item that maybe we could just touch on briefly. I think the survey thing, I'd like to wait till everybody's here so we're all involved in that, because I think it'd be great to shape that up. But the main thing that I thought we could just touch on quickly and come back to is the updated timeline.
You want to put that up?
Yeah, hang on. Let me just grab. I want to make sure I'm grabbing the right screen here.
I see our new councilman's coming on. Hello, John.
Hello there.
Hello, John.
Hello.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I'm not sure. No
It's
idea
up.
what that was.
You do
Can
have
you
it
see
up.
this?
Yes,
Can you
yes,
see?
it's up.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can see your screen list.
Okay, it's not highlighted, so I don't know
okay.
why. Anyway, just the long story is that this paints a path toward the end of next summer, September.
All
So
right.
it really spreads out everything we're doing and makes it so that we're not having 2 committee meetings a month, which I think is a lot for most people. Because you also have stuff to look at in between, and you probably all have a million other things to do. And it also sort of spreads out the survey questionnaire for a month, and then we kind of regroup, look at that. And what I'm hoping is, hang on a second here. So the comprehensive plan update survey would start in late January and end in late February. And then we would regroup
March. Right.
in March, review those responses and compile those results.
Mhm.
And focus on other aspects of the comprehensive plan update, hopefully along the way. And then starting in April, we would start to use some of the results from the survey questionnaire to start figuring out what we want to do with the social pinpoint platform, which is going to be mapping an idea platform. And so people that can answer questions or do comments either on a map or in a separate place just for comments. And so we would start talking about that in April. And that community engagement would start late April or early May and continue through late May, early June. Then we would regroup in late June and go over the results of that, and then start diving back into, the outline and the text, goals, objectives, and strategies, and start really writing the text of the plan.
Okay, now I got a question for you. Number 23,
Mhm.
where you say update with the town board. What does that mean? You're going to do you're doing a presentation to the town board? Are we attending the meeting, or? Because we'll have 2 members of the town board on this committee already.
Well, the idea was to make some progress and then have a point where we're touching base with the town board. And my concept was to have it kind of be a joint committee meeting. So the CPU committee
Right.
attending a town board meeting, it would be like a joint meeting that's a portion of a town board meeting or a special meeting. So that the committee can kind of have a conversation with the town board about what they're working on. So I might initiate the discussion, but I would hope that that discussion would ultimately be a pretty intensive conversation between the committee and the town board.
Okay, and another question I have, do you plan on doing this regarding Zoom all the way through September? Most likely.
Yeah, I guess when I started painting out how best to do this, this is the timeline I came up with. And I'm looking for your feedback.
Well, most of us have never done a comprehensive plan before, besides maybe Jonathan. So
Right.
we really don't know how it works doing it live. I don't mean live, in person. I guess we're all alive.
Yeah,
Ha.
Well, obviously, in person is the ideal thing to do if we can. Anyway, even for our own meetings, but I understand that's not going to be possible for a while. But I think it's a great idea to have several joint get-togethers with the town board because it's ultimately the town board that is going to adopt the plan. The committee is simply recommending a plan to the town board. And so the idea of meeting with them several times through the process is to so hopefully make sure that we're all on the same wavelength with where the committee is going with things.
Okay.
One thing I noticed though, that July 7th date is not currently a town board meeting. So I looked at the town board
oh,
2022 meeting schedule,
Yeah, they're
I may
set
have looked
for
at the wrong year.
21st, I
and
think.
there's only one July meeting, apparently July 20th.
20th.
okay.
I mean, that can always change, but that's what it is now.
And another thing that could change is if we really wanted to, we could run the community engagement almost overlapping. And that would make a shorter schedule.
Well,
So that's
Liz, those
another
would
way
all
of
be
doing it.
Good things for the committee to talk about, but I would point out that we have not officially begun this meeting. So
Oh, I'm
I
so
would
sorry.
I would recommend that so that these discussions can be on the record and televised, that we should do so now.
I'm sorry.
so
I didn't
that-
realize this hadn't started.
Yeah, and that's what I was recommending earlier. I was asking if you wanted to start or if you wanted to wait, and I
Oops.
don't think we ended up doing either. So if we could officially bring this meeting to order. It is 7:42 p.m. and this is the December 8th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Fishkill Comprehensive Plan Committee. I will begin by turning over to the town planner, Liz Axelson.
Hello, everyone. I know you've been given a lot of materials lately and lots of good feedback. And we have some priorities for things to discuss tonight. We're still waiting for a couple of members to join. And I believe that it's very important that we have a lot of input from as many people as possible about the survey questionnaire, as that's a priority. So what I'd like to do is just have a brief discussion on the draft updated extended timeline. And then we'll come back to the survey when we think we have everybody here. Okay, I just got something from Anne Lagoy. So she's on her way. All right, so I had the extended comprehensive plan timeline up on the screen. You guys can all see it, I assume. And Greg, are we recording now?
We have been,
Oh, good. I thought so. Okay, good.
because when I signed on, it said we were recording right away.
That's what I thought too. Okay, good. That's good. Then we didn't
Yes,
lose
Liz,
anything.
we are recording, but bear in mind that we only televise the actual meeting. So any pre-meeting greetings are not part of the
Okay,
product that gets placed on the website. So our video begins when we came into session at 7:42.
okay, that's great. So then I'm going to start from the top here on this extended timeline for the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee. The first several items are steps that the committee has already taken. And what happened recently is the November meeting was canceled, November 10th meeting. And so we're meeting tonight. Our next sort of phase of work is to try to work through the survey questionnaire and hopefully vision statement and this timeline. So that's tonight. And then looking ahead, this outline has us having our first joint meeting in mid-January of, wait a minute, that's not right. January, it should be 2022. And that would be the committee attending a town board meeting. And again, just to come back to this point, that could be a Zoom meeting if that's what is happening at that time. It'll be a large Zoom gathering, but it would hopefully be as many committee members as possible that could attend. And I would, lead a presentation, but I would encourage committee members to jump in and, converse with the town board as part of the whole presentation to the town board. And the town board would probably have, questions for the committee. One of the reasons that the survey is an important part of this discussion tonight is that step number 11 in this outline is to possibly start that comprehensive plan update survey in January, end of January or beginning of February of 2022. And the idea is to have that go out by mail, to have it out online in some platform. And there's possibilities of SurveyMonkey and another platform called Owl Counted. And the idea is to find a platform where we can get it out. It's very accessible, and we have the possibility of tabulating. And also hard copies could be placed at community areas, town hall, post offices, any places where communities gather so that people could fill them out, and then we would have instructions for how to get them back to the town. So that's why that's so important right now. Let's see. The comprehensive plan update survey would possibly be concluded a month after it started. So that would be February 23 or March 2nd. In other words, end of February, beginning of March. And then the next committee meeting in March would be to review the results of the survey questionnaire responses. And hopefully I would have had some time to do some tabulation before that meeting. And we'll probably have to do some afterward, but we can start to review that. And so that would be in March 2022. And then the idea of committee meeting on April 13 is to take the input from the survey questionnaire and start thinking about an online platform, which could be a mapping platform or just a platform where people communicate their comments and ideas. And that gives people a chance to just go online and maybe place some comments or suggestions or ideas, either within a map. In other words, they might put a sticky note at a location in town and say, it'd be great to do this at this intersection, or it'd be nice to have a store here in this vacant building, that kind of thing. So we can talk about that after we've reviewed the feedback from the survey questionnaire. I kind of separated those two types of community engagement. In other words, the survey questionnaire for a month, and then we tabulate, and then the online platform for a month. So that would run from, let's see, the online platform would run from late April or early May 2022 and conclude in late May or early June 2022. So doing the survey and then taking a month to digest that and coming back and then doing the online platform, that kind of spreads out our community engagement quite a bit. And the idea was to have a little break between things. If the committee thinks it would be better to have those things running at the same time, we can try to figure out how to do that. It's possible. So And that would shorten the overall timeline. And then, let's see. Next, we'd be getting ready for community engagement, taking the online engagement results and reviewing that in a committee meeting June 22. And then also talking about, let's see, we would start looking at getting back to the CPU text, the outline, goals, objectives, strategies, and implementation, because technically we would have a lot of community input at that point. And it might be easier for us to start really writing that text. Of course, I would write it and then you would review and comment on it. And let's see, we would continue to do that in late June. And I guess it would be mid to late July also, as I understand that there's only one town board meeting, I guess, in July. This item 23 that's up on the board right now, this is meant to be a joint committee and town board meeting to go over all the results of all the different community engagement. Theoretically, we've already handed them some kind of a plan, a draft plan that they're looking at, and hopefully it's enough of a plan that the town board will feel comfortable moving forward so that they could, at this joint CPU committee and town board meeting, possibly start secret review, make referrals, and set a public hearing for early August. Let's see. And then that meeting in August would be the public hearing. And then the committee would regroup for meeting number 8. And they're going to be reviewing the public hearing comments, making any revisions, and finalizing comprehensive plan update text, goals, objectives, strategies, implementation. And then at the town board meeting, hopefully on September 7 or September 21, that would be the continuation of the public hearing. There would be a conclusion to secret review, conclusion of the public hearing, and possibly adopting the comprehensive plan update. Long-winded, but it's a long process. The place that it could be scooched together, as I said before, is if we ran both the survey and the online input platform at the same time. So, and I know there were comments and questions along the way. Anybody have anything?
Well, I guess I could start off. Again, I think it's a very good idea to have several joint meetings between the comprehensive plan committee and the town board. It looks like there are at least 3 of them throughout this schedule. I think that's right, isn't it?
I think so.
Starting in January. I think one of the good things about sort of the way you've set out the schedule with meetings kind of spaced a little bit farther apart than maybe we originally thought is that there actually still is a lot of things that can be done by you as our consultant and by others of us committee members who are helping to do certain tasks in between meetings. So some of that's going to take quite a while to get together. And if there isn't ample time to put things together before reviewing it at a meeting with the whole committee, it's going to be more difficult. So I think this schedule looks pretty good to me, the way it's spread out. It's certainly not overly long. I think it's a lot more realistic than the original schedule that we saw. And I think this is pretty realistic. I think it's doable.
I have to agree. I think it's good timeline wise. I think it's good as far as work goes for people. And let's face facts, it's not going to be etched in stone and displayed over the courthouse. So I'm good with it.
I mean, and obviously, realistically, I just want to say, you know, I have a budget for how this thing started. I don't necessarily have a budget yet for what lies ahead. So that could change things, but we'll see.
Liz, is there a place in there for subgroups to meet? And how does that work?
I do not have a place in there for subgroups to meet. What, I mean,
I
Talk to
just
me about-
assumed that subgroups would meet in between the meetings. If a subgroup was called in the beginning of March meeting, then sometime between March and April, they'd meet and report
Sure.
back out at the April meeting.
yeah. And I mean, I think that's a great idea to have subgroup meetings. I guess there's a couple ways to do that. They could be separate, like Zoom meetings, if there's a group that has a focus. The other thing I don't know how to do, but I've seen it done before, is when we have a large group like this, to have a portion of this larger meeting where people are splitting into rooms, I guess.
Liz, that's easy to do, but it can't be recorded.
Okay,
I just want to let you know that. You can't record you can break it up into as many rooms as you want. And, you know, since we're on Zoom, that's easy to do. You just assign somebody to a breakout room and what they're going to cover. But it's not going to be recorded, so I don't know how that stands with, you know, recording, meeting with everybody else. But we can do that and then have the group come back and report what they found. Have a spokesman for each group and come back and report of what the subgroup did. And we can do that, live Zoom.
well, I'm also wondering if there's a way to, a subgroup, I think maybe, Michael, what you're thinking is maybe the subgroup would meet between the big committee meetings.
But
Yes,
then it was
correct.
recorded.
And so maybe it would be, committee members would be offered an opportunity to be part of a group, and they would just attend that meeting. And then there might be another group that would do that in the interim. And then when we come back to the big committee, somebody from each of those groups would report.
That's fine. And I know from my teaching that any Zoom meeting can be recorded.
Sure.
And then make an MP4 file. We can just send those to someone if they want to, if they need to be uploaded to the website. They can be uploaded. If they don't, they can be deleted.
Yeah, I've found with when you assign subgroups to work on specific topics, a lot of that is done by individuals, researching or writing certain things about, say, housing as an example. There are a lot of different aspects of the housing supply and market and economics and demographics. Whether we'd want a subgroup to look at that, it might be a matter of getting other stakeholders involved in those subgroups too, like housing experts as an example, because probably none of us on the committee are other. I mean, some of us are, real estate experts. Some of us are have expertise with government work and planning, but housing is a pretty specific item. So if we wanted a subgroup on housing, we'd probably need to reach out to other housing experts and stakeholders and kind of compile information. And then the subgroup could come together, look at all the information and report out some recommendations to the whole committee. That's usually how subgroups have worked in my understanding of it.
Yep,
And there could be any
also-
number of topics that we break out into like that. But we won't know until we start getting into it and see what some of the important topics are that we'll need additional information on. And also, hopefully, we'll look to Liz for some of her expertise on some of these areas to try to help us compile that kind of information. I think that puppy dog is volunteering to be on the subcommittee.
Hey, Jonathan, some of that information could probably be provided by the county. I do know I have some tools that could, drive in a specific area for understanding the profile of any specific community from, and really specific demographics other than age, income, and average household value and stuff. But I think the county would probably have a lot of that information.
I think you're right, definitely.
Yes, and we just went through the survey, so the information is, the census survey. So a lot of it's
Yeah.
really up to date.
Yeah, there should be, I haven't had a chance to look, but getting basic demographic stuff, I mean, that's something I could probably grab pretty easily.
Well, won't a lot of this subgroup be kicked off by the surveys that come back?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of, I think the comprehensive plan update, the body of it itself is going to come from the input that you're going to get from the survey questionnaire, and also from, if the committee chooses to do so, an online platform with other ways of giving input. So, I mean, that's part of what lengthens the process, is if the community engagement is really going to be knitted in to the plan, then it makes sense to try to do those a little bit separately. And also for, the questionnaire to give us ideas for what to do with the online platform. What didn't we hit? What are people talking about? How can they, show that graphically in an online platform? So.
Makes sense.
All right, so
Liz, would you do one favor for us? Would you redo the draft, which you have in front of this with the proper dates, and then get it back out to us?
yeah, I think most of them are okay, but I did find
Yeah.
at some point I was using the wrong year. I got lost in my calendar. Sorry, guys. And maybe what I'll do, I'll check the dates all over again. And maybe what I'll do is I'll throw in some steps for groups. And I would suggest it would be group meetings maybe after the questionnaire comes back.
And if we're going to be meeting with the town at those dates, Greg, would you make sure that we're on the agenda?
Great point.
Greg? He's gone. Okay, Liz. make
Yeah,
sure
and
we're on
I'm
the agenda.
gonna have to check these all anyway. My first idea was just to get this in front of the committee so that you guys could see the extended timeline. See if it rings true with the basic process.
Mr.
It's
Cantor,
possible.
I'm
take
sorry,
longer.
I couldn't get myself off mute. What were you asking me?
Make sure that when Liz sends out the next update of this, that we're on the town board agenda for that day.
Yes, I will speak with the supervisor and the town board members and make sure that you are added for a presentation for that following board meeting.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll redo this and get it back out. Check with Greg. So that's that for now. That was that's the first time we looked at an extended timeline, so I really appreciate the input. All right, and I don't know if we have more people now, but I think,
No, we have less. We had
Oh.
a couple drop out.
okay.
It's been something I said, I don't know, or didn't.
We
Well, I
have
feel
right
like-
now, yeah, right now.
I dropped
we're-
out. It says 13.
Yeah, but 3 of the people are not members of the committee. So we're down to 10 members.
All right. Well, I mean, I think it would still be good to try to make some progress on the survey questionnaire if we could.
Yep. Oh, please.
'Cause that's-
Absolutely.
We can't get
Jackie-
started with the community engagement.
Text them.
So, hang on. Let me see if I can. I'm going to stop sharing. Hello again.
Hello again.
And I want to bring up, let's see. First, I want to go over, hang on a second here. Where am I? I just want to grab the right screen. Can you guys see the survey questionnaire?
Yes.
Track- Okay.
Yeah.
And I did get a couple sets of comments. Karen Svoboda sent an item and we'll look at that next. And Jonathan Cantor had some comments on the tracked changes item that I had. And pardon me for saying track changes. I know it's awkward, but I don't like the word redlining because it has other meanings. So I say track changes. Anyway, so everything is what you've been looking at, except you'll see these bubbles that say John. So John highlighted this question. And his question had to do with when we're asking about localities, we're saying Rombout, and we're also saying Rombout/90 corridor, and that's kind of confusing. That maybe we should just use Rombout/90 corridor.
I would say, Roundabout is a fire department, and the Roundabout Fire Department covers a lot of Fishkill. So I don't know if people are going to get confused with that as opposed to the 9D corridor.
I have a question. Why are we even filling all of this in? I notice later on in the questions, they're just an open line where people can just put in what they want, which would probably shorten the whole form and leave it much more open. You could maybe put in examples of, say, round out this, that, the other thing. It was just a question because it just kind of looks busy at the front. And then I'm looking back at some of the later ones and they are just open, like, what businesses and services should be available, so you can leave it up and it makes it a little neater. Just a question.
So, are we talking about possibly just saying,
Well,
what area of Fishkill do you live in, and just let people say?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. Just a blank line. I mean, because even, I don't recognize any of the above. I prefer not to answer an other. You could just put in like the other aspect and maybe, put in examples of, say examples or that, and you get rid of all it. It just kind of looks busy. And like
It looks
later
busy,
on, I
right?
see them open and I'm like, you know what? Open's better. You get maybe more information, I think, from people.
It's
just like-
good, but are we going to need to sort the data by area? If we're asking what businesses and services you want, and everyone in Glenham says we want more gas stations, but everyone in Dutchess Junction says they want more food options, that's an important piece of information, not just that, hey, a bunch of people wanted food and a bunch of people wanted gas.
I'm not saying get rid of the question. I'm just saying get rid of like all the pre-put in answers. Just leave
But
out.
most people don't know the area they live in. If we just let them fill in a blank, they're going to be able to put anything in. We're not going to be able to sort on specific areas. If we make them check a box, that's a datum. We can put them in a specific silo. If we let them just name their own silos, we'll have a million silos.
Agree with him.
Well, if I could just add one thing, I think it's really common in many municipalities that most people don't know what municipality they live in. So for example, I live in the town of Esopus, but I live in Riften. And the people I talk to say, oh, I'm from Riften, I'm from Port Ewan. They really don't know they're in the town of Esopus until the tax bill arrives. So I think having a sense of at least some kind of a list of these hamlet areas is helpful. And again, to tabulate.
But what you're just saying, that even makes less sense to have them in there because you wouldn't know. I'm like, all right, I just put in Fishkill because, I guess it's Fishkill. What area am I in? I mean, it's the same thing unless you're giving them a map. This is the section this is this is that, and this is the other thing.
Let me ask a question, guys. The first group of ones we have up here are fire districts. So it's the Glenham Fire District, which is Slater Chemical. Chelsea covers the Chelsea area. Fishkill is really the village of Fishkill, Protection Engine. All right. Roundabout covers a whole bunch of Dutchess Park and all of that stuff. Do people know what fire district they're in? And Dutchess Junction has a firehouse too. So, all right. And after that, you started breaking it off more.
Yeah, Fred, just an FYI at the Chelsea, I believe they're closing or have closed.
But the fire district, Chelsea?
Not the district, but the station.
Firehouse? You're talking about the prison or the firehouse?
I believe the firehouse. I'm gonna double check that, but I'm sure that's accurate.
Greg, is that accurate? Come on, Greg.
Mr. Cantor, I don't have any information on any of the firehouses in Fishkill closing. That's
I
not
haven't
something
heard
that
that
has
either,
crossed my
Jane.
desk.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either.
I think people know their fire districts, especially with volunteer fire departments, more than they know their area, because the volunteers do go out, they do the Santa Claus and candy canes, they do the fundraising. You get a book in October that says we're the Roundabout Fire Department and we're your fire district, give us some money for the volunteer organization. It may not capture the hamlets exactly well, because I know the hamlet borders and the fire district borders are not identical, but at least it would give us a proximity as to where people are answering certain questions.
I have a question. If people don't know what fire district they live in, is there an easy way for them to look this up? Or is it,
Call
would that be a
911.
barrier to people?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, looking at it myself, I'm like, which one would I even check? You said firehouse, which now I know which one to check. But other than that,
Well, I would say
Oh,
which
my
firehouse, which fire district you live in.
Yeah,
If you-
Mr. Cantor, while we all appreciate the humor there, since this will be televised, I would be remiss not to say, please do
Okay.
not call 911 unless you are experiencing an emergency.
Thank you. Evan, you can always plug your address in on Google and say, what fire district am I in? And it'll give you the fire district. Those maps are more accurate when they're trying to ping a searchable database than what hamlet do I live in. That could come back with a bunch of different answers. Just saying, I know that from my work as an engineer.
yes, but me coming in to just fill this thing out quick, say I'm walking into the supermarket, says, hey, you got 5 minutes to take the survey. I'm not going to go searching it up. I'm going to go, it says Fishkill. I'm going to check Fishkill because I live in Fishkill. Not that it's village. I'm just.
We're gonna get errors,
Yeah.
but I mean, look, it's one of two things. Either we have to define some silos for people to be tallied in, or we have to agree that we don't want to regionalize the data. Because if everyone rates in their own place, there's going to be too many of them, and some of them are going to make their own up, that we're not going to be able to, sort them on it.
And the other thing is there is, the way it's written, again, if we want to reduce the number of hamlet areas, we can do anything, committee can do anything they want. But there isn't a thing in there that says, I don't recognize any of the above. And that'll tell us a lot too. Like people don't really associate with a part of town.
So
So I don't know. What would you guys like to do? Go ahead, Jonathan.
one possible idea, and I'm not quite sure how this would work, would be to put a small map of the town on the survey. Now, of course, an online survey, you could do that a lot easier maybe than a hard copy, but I think I've seen this before, where even in a hard copy survey, there would be a map, very generic type of simple map, perhaps with numbers on it indicating geographic areas. And as long as the map is fairly recognizable, people would probably be able to recognize which numbered sub area they live in, and then just mark, 1, 2, which area do you live in? 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it might be. It's a little tricky because some people aren't very good with maps. I know that, but on the other hand, if we really want geographic areas, we have to figure out the best way to get that. And I think the way these were laid out was kind of confusing even to me. And it may not be giving us good information. So if we want to do it, we should probably try to think of a better way to get that geographic information. So a map might be one possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. And originally, when we did our first draft, there were fewer of them. Because what I did was looked at just sort of a map of the town to see what showed up as an identified place. And so it was a shorter list. And then we expanded it.
Liz, we have 5 fire districts that encompass all of Fishkill, including the village.
And what are those?
You have them right there. You have Glenham, which is known as Slater Chemical, but it's the Glenham Fire District. You have the one in Chelsea.
Mhm.
You have Protection Engine, which is Fishkill, the village of Fishkill, but it's called Protection Engine. All right. You have the Roundabout Fire Department,
Mhm.
which covers your Toll Brothers Merrick Park, as does part of Protection Engine. And you have Dutchess Junction, which Kenya lives in, correct?
No,
Oh, you don't? All right.
no, I don't live there.
All right, but we have Dutchess Junction, and those are the 5 we have.
So that's 5. And then is it possible then that Dutchess Park is extraneous, not really identifiable?
No, because you have Dutchess Park and Brinkerhoff are the same thing. I'm going to tell you right now, Brinkerhoff is Dutchess Park.
Yeah.
Okay, so should they be combined as a slash?
Well, I don't know if that's what you want to do. If you're looking for your large subdivision,
If people
the
would
large
recognize,
subdivisions is the
Dutchess
Brinkerhoff.
Junction.
All right, not Dutchess Junction, but no, Dutchess Park. Dutchess Park and Brinkerhoff are the large subdivisions combined.
Brinkerhoff
Toll
and
Brothers-
Dutchess Park.
Yeah, Dutchess Park.
So those could be combined.
They can, yes, they are combined.
I would go out on
Too.
I'd go out on a limb and expand on Jonathan's idea, because that was a really good one.
I do too.
Yeah.
But
Go
it's the
again.
5
Yeah, instead of a 2A and 2B, just put a map of the town and do something like put a check where you live and put an X on places that you visit.
Yeah. And that would work fine.
Yeah.
I think it would be more interesting for people to fill it out too,
Yeah.
more appealing.
And you can have your main like where 84 is and where 9 is, and, where 9D is, and that can give people a general idea of where they are on that map. Because generally, you know where you are compared to those main arteries.
Yeah.
And we could put like a grid over top of the map so that we can still quantify kind of like how many people are going into this section of town. So you can
But
still tally them.
we could do that ourselves. We don't have to have anyone else see that grid and make it more confusing for them.
Yeah,
Yep.
just a general map, and they can give a check generally whereabouts they go.
And you
So-
can do the same thing for the second question if you're going to keep
Yeah.
that in.
Oh,
It sounds
what I
like if we,
mean.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's what I mean, have one map
Yeah.
and just say, put in X where you live, and that's 2A, and put a check on places you visit, that's 2B, and you've got both questions on one map, and we're done.
A
Yeah,
would
but-
be where you live and B would be where you visit.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, you're going to have more than one B.
Yeah. Yeah, I realize that, but
You're
even,
going to have definitely more than one B.
oh, I know that, but even on this, you'd have more than one B checked.
Yes.
It-
You'd have to-
So
yeah.
we're gonna have multiple Bs no matter which way we do it.
Or L and V, whatever works.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny on the first question, you have check all that apply.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that for that question. Just say, where do you live?
Yeah.
Unless people own multiple houses, that would be unique.
The house is on the border, so depending on which room they're in.
Yeah.
But if we have a map and simply ask them to check where you live, they don't have to worry about that.
Right.
You got it.
Correct.
Primary residence.
Sounds good.
The visiting one, I mean, I'm not even sure we need to ask about the visiting one. It would be interesting, but we're probably going to get a lot of check marks all over the map.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That may be an abundance of data. We may have so much data we can't see through it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but
hopefully we get
it's-
that much.
Each person's, I guess if I'm understanding this correctly, each person's going to have their own map to mark up
Correct.
as part of the form.
I guess the question is, which I think we referred to earlier, is what is the purpose of the question we're asking? And so what would the purpose of question 2B be? What would we get out of asking where people go?
I guess the idea was connectivity, but maybe we need to forget that question.
Good idea. And may I also make a suggestion? We have Fishkill. We put a village of Fishkill in it. Because we all live in the town of Fishkill.
Well, with the map, it's gonna, you could put on the map where the village is in an
Yeah,
outline.
you're gonna have to, yeah.
Right. And that'll give us an indicator, which again is one of those, landmark kind of things.
Yeah, we don't even have to put the names down. We can just refer it by number. So people don't get confused. Well, I live in Fishkill, but Rondo's my fire department, and just put a
Only,
number.
only residents are going to be filling this out, right? We're not going to have people from who do not live in Fishkill filling this out. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Oh, so therein lies another problem. I do like the map idea though, because I think people love visual stuff. And if you can break this up, the questions, but you'll have to have, if you say, where do you live? People are going to be marking, up at the top of the page.
Question number 1 does get at whether respondents live in the town of Fishkill or not, and whether you, within that, whether you
Right,
live
yes.
in the village. So right away, we're going to see if somebody's filling it out who does not live in
Right.
the town. And from there, we can tabulate their answers according to that. But
So number two,
I think the purpose of the survey really is primarily to get residents of the town and village to fill it out. There will be some other people who do fill it out, and there's no reason they shouldn't, but I don't think we should try to target people who do not live in the village or the town, sorry.
So good. So we decided to eliminate 2B.
And to do
I
some
think
kind of,
2B is important. I mean, where do you go?
Why
Yeah,
can't the map have both?
Yeah,
I can't.
you can
the
just
map-
two different checks. Like once, I
Right.
forget who said,
Right.
someone said you put an X where you live and a check
Yeah, there you
mark
go.
where you recreate, whether it's
Yeah.
you go out to eat a lot or you
I
go to the
do- I do
farms
think
or you go to
2B is
Dutchess
important.
Stadium or,
Yeah, I
you know,
do too.
and it helps us know where you live and then where do you go? Where do you travel to or spend
Right.
a lot of time at?
I
X
mean,
marks
for-
the spot where you live,
Right.
and
And then
V
check
maybe
is
is
where
where you
you-
visit.
Recreate.
Because some people don't travel more than a few blocks from their house, really. Either, they hop on a main fare 84 and gone, but they don't necessarily come into the village or along Route 9 or anything like that.
And I
I,
think the
I
map,
would, I would predict that we will see a lot of people checking the city of Beacon, which will probably be on the map because it's within the town of Fishkill geographically. And that's the destination for an awful lot of people, no matter whether they
Yeah.
live in the town or not.
But that's good information to know because what does Beacon have that Fishkill doesn't?
Doesn't.
And then how do we change that? How do we make our town more like that to bring more people in? If that's where they're going, then
More
how do we be
appealing.
more like
Yeah.
that?
There you go. That's the answer. There you
So
go.
that's awesome information, actually.
Okay. So that sounds good. Let's do that.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So a map identifies some of these areas.
Mhm.
X is where you live, V is where you visit. And unless you have another thing, like I know you mentioned recreate, and that's good. I'm thinking when people go from their home to someplace else, they could be going for any number of reasons.
Yeah, well, if you're a foodie, where do you like to go eat in the area?
Right.
You can even have a spot like surrounding towns, maybe just or a spot. I don't know. Anything's a good idea.
It could be G for where you go. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
Or you could put a Waldo,
There you go.
on A.
give them a sheet of stickers. Put your stickers on.
Well, see, this brings up an interesting point because we don't necessarily have to have all this kind of information on the survey, because you can also do it if we ever have a chance to do a live in-person
Mhm.
public participation forum.
Yeah.
You can put a map up on the wall and say, show this stuff, show
Yeah.
us where you live, and
Mhm.
also show us the places you like to visit. And live in person, you can then ask them, well, why do you go to that place? What do you like about it?
Hey, guys.
That's a point. That's a good
Wait a
point.
moment. Hey, would you go back to question number 1? Because a lot of this stuff is in question number 1. Liz,
Hang on. I'm making notes.
I mean, if you look at question number 1, it says, I live in the town of Fishkill full-time or part-time. Well, that's telling us where they live, right? I don't know how people live here part-time. I don't understand that question itself.
Well, if they have a
I
second.
mean, we don't have
home
very many recreational homes here that people only live here.
I guess they're referring that if they work on the city, they spend most of the time in the city and they just come up here in the weekend.
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
Well, I see on the sheet that's printed out, it has that question, but the one on the screen, if she goes up, it actually says, I own a business in the town.
Yes, I
I
know.
own a
She has a
home in the
bunch of,
town.
yeah, I have a condo or apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different question.
Different question, sort of
Yeah,
one.
but it's in the same survey, so we don't have to do it twice.
No, we
Oh, but
could
it's a
probably get
different-
rid of full-time, part-time, because I don't even understand what part-time is unless you're a snowbird.
That's
But
what-
the other information is good. Like, do
There
you
are
own
a
a
lot
business?
of-
Because you might not live here, but you're still part of our community as a business owner.
Well, that
You'd
has
be
it.
surprised how many condominiums there are with part-time residents, snowbirds.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
How many second homeowners charge your economy in different ways?
Mhm.
Is that what you would? But that would be under this second part of number one, which is I own commercial property, or, you know, that could be one of those, I rent a home, condominium, apartment. You know, you could say, do I own rental property? You can put that in there, or it's actually even there under other.
I mean, I guess, are we discussing getting rid of this question?
No, I think we're just
No,
getting rid of
no.
the first part, which is I live in the town of Fishkill, full-time, part-time. Get rid of that, but keep what's underneath that.
Oh, but
Does
why
that
would
make
you get
sense?
rid of that?
Why are we getting rid of
Right. Why
part-time?
wouldn't we
in
get rid
there?
of it?
I don't understand. Is that
Well, again, what's part-time? What do you consider part-time?
That's
somebody
what they
who's,
consider
let's say,
part-time.
they live in Florida in the winter, but they live in Fishkill from spring through October?
But if they rent or own in the town of Fishkill, they're still a resident.
Yeah, but you're
that's
trying to
true.
see how long they're here for.
Right.
It's just another part.
Or are they
It doesn't
coming
hurt.
upstate for long weekends, like has been happening? I mean, first started happening in 9/11 and then started happening during COVID, where people are upstate more for like typically sometimes 3 or 4 day weekends.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's so, I don't
But
know
are
if
they
that's affecting
renting,
the
or are they
community.
just coming up for, and then are they residents, or are we back
Yeah,
to?
are they primary resident? That's the question there.
They're part of the community.
Yeah.
And that's
They may be buying stuff,
Yeah,
going to the doctor, the
again,
dentist.
the county probably has this kind of data that we're all trying to figure out that we can pull from them and sort of, you know, ferret through some of the stuff. Other demographics based, you know, like leakage on, you know, where things are going, meaning people are spending their money more in Beacon than they're in Fishkill. They're easily obtainable.
Maybe the idea is get the demographics and see what we can glean from that, and then get rid of some of these questions.
That's, yes.
The key to whether the question should remain on the survey is whether that information could be analyzed in a way to show how people are answering other questions on the survey.
Yeah.
If
Right,
there's
I
a
think
reason.
if we-
So does a full-time resident answer a question about, I don't know, economics or businesses the same way a part-time resident would? If we don't care about that type of analysis, then there's no need to have it, but I think we might care about it.
And I really don't need a category. I go to school in the town of Fishkill. How many people who are filling this out go to school in the town of Fishkill?
Well, you have the new Duchess.
I know that we do
Yeah.
have the new, but again,
Right.
and the reason we got it here is because we're looking for people from Putnam County, outside the county, to go there.
But again, if we're asking if people are coming up here part-time, whether it's the 3 day weekends or trying to get out of the city because of COVID, I mean, again, it's another data point. And I was actually just referring to getting rid of it and trying to roll that same question into like that same area. Like I rent, own, I go to school, I own commercial property, I own a business, I visit, you know, I vacation, I escape the city. I don't know. It's up to you guys. I really don't care either way. It was just.
I think we may be over-analyzing some of these.
Yeah.
And if we do that, we're going to get bogged down and
Mhm.
won't really be able to move through the whole survey.
Yeah, information overload is important. I think that's one of the things we need to do before we finalize the survey is figure out exactly what kind of information are we looking for? I mean, are we looking for to go down to the level of someone who just comes into Fishkill to go to DCC? Are we looking for what they do or where they go? Or do we care more about people who live in Fishkill, where they go and what they do?
Well, I can tell you about 99% of the people do not know DCC is in Fishkill.
I agree, but if we put a stack of things to fill out there, they'll know that DCC is there.
Right.
And I guess, one of the things to think about is whether or not Fishkill is thinking of wanting anything resembling tourism.
Well, one of your questions later on, Liz, has to do with tourism. It says all of the parks we have, all the other things that we have, do you visit that? All that stuff. And we can put DCC down on that list.
I think I get what Liz is getting at more. Do we need a question that says, do you want to develop tourism in the town of Fishkill? That would be an important datum. Obviously you can't just leave a question, hey, are you a tourist? That's too open-ended. But I still think at this point, maybe we should figure out, exactly what data do we want to be able to link and analyze? Do we want to be able to link, whatever with location? And then, as someone mentioned, let's go see what's available at the county. If we want it, let's see if we can get it in the form we want it. If it's not available in the form we want, then we need to ask it. But if we can get it off a county website, we should be off the form.
I have in front of me right now just a basic demographics from the tools I have. It's called Tapestry Report. Fred, you may be familiar with it or not, but it really drills down on the type of community. The only thing I haven't done is just doing a polygon of the immediate area. It just went out by rings. I could do drive times too, but it really drills down on the type of community you have, from the high school diplomas to the type of education, age, and actually look, it has some pretty good balance. I'm looking at the age, but I wanted to share it with you, but obviously it cannot since this is being recorded, but I can send it out as an email to everyone and it's an interactive, so you can click on it and check out some stuff. It compares to the county, Dutchess County. You can compare it to other things too, but nonetheless, it gives you an idea of the profile of, and it'll show the map on where that data is coming from.
Right.
It leans a little into Wappingers and a little bit into Beacon, but I think it's somewhat helpful.
Right. It'll give you the good profile, but what it won't tell you is, does the person, the 90% of the people in Chelsea who have high school diplomas, do they like to go out to eat in Fishkill or somewhere else?
Right. Yeah, looking at the questionnaire, that's kind of what I see. We kind of want an idea of who it is that's answering this question, where they live, where they go, why are they here, whether they own or whether they own a business or whether they even go to school or just, so it gives us a general idea. And then we're asking their input later on. Right. What are the important things? What kind of things, how do you get around? What are some of the issues? Do you have any solutions? And then that, knowing who the person is that's answering these questions, I think we can only get from their input, which looking at the rest of the questionnaire, that's kind of what we're asking.
And Jonathan added some questions which also had to do with that general, information about each individual filling it out.
So hopefully we'll get to that if we can move on enough.
Well,
I like the way number one is, and I like the way 2A and B turned out with maps.
Yep. Okay. I agree. That's fine.
Let's go on.
Okay. All right, this one got split on the page. Let me see if I can zoom out. I'm trying to make this bigger and it's not working.
That's all right. I think we can see it.
Okay. I don't want to make it too much smaller. Here we go.
Very, look at the general issues of interest, concern.
There. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry.
Which is the most important to you, at least important to you?
This one I thought was just a matter of having people look at general issues and prioritize.
Yeah, Other than I would alphabetize it so that no one can say you're favoring one over another by putting it higher on the list. People see
Got
it
it.
and give it a low number.
Okay, okay, that's, yeah. That's a good way to do it. It's gonna look more random.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. That's good. Anything else? Should we go on to the next one, or is that?
I'd go on, yeah.
I would like to know the person who's going
Yeah, I
to say
think the
no
next
to
one
the
is
next question.
What is it?
I would like to know who's going to say no to the next question.
Let's
Okay,
go to
wait.
that question.
But did somebody have one more comment? I didn't know on this
No,
one.
I said
No.
it looked fine.
Okay. So. Uh-huh. Okay. So there you go. Now we're diving into traffic.
Instead of a yes, no, because I agree that, I mean, it's pretty much going to be a yes if you travel through the town of Fishkill. Do we want to change that from a binary answer to an analog answer on a scale of 1 to 10? How bad is the traffic in Fishkill? 1 being fine, 10 being you got to do something tomorrow.
Well,
Or
if you, hey, Mike,
you-
Michael, if you came from the city of New York City,
Mhm.
then the traffic isn't so bad.
No, trust me,
Well,
I commute to
or-
the city.
or
I know what you're
something-
talking about, Fred.
or something to the effect of, do you find yourself avoiding Fishkill because of the traffic?
There you go.
That's a
not
good
a bad
one. That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
There's-
but that's kind of biasing the
I mean,
answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the gradation is a good idea though, because I think that is, how severe do you find that problem, or how severe?
Yeah.
How problematic, how bad is the traffic?
Yeah,
in
and if you
Fishkill?
put a number between 1 and 10, that's a good way to kind of gauge.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Or we can do little smiley faces like they do in the
I was-
hospital.
I was just thinking
Smiley for
that,
the crying.
Kevin. I was just thinking the little frown face.
Yeah.
10. Mm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not so bad and 10 being horrifying.
Yes.
And then you,
I think that is
That'd be
much
good.
better than just the yes, no. I agree.
and then take out if you answered yes, because they're definitely good for the next question.
Mhm.
Oh, I
Then
really
Yeah,
Yeah.
where do you encounter traffic problems? Yeah, you can
Right.
just check.
You saying to take that out?
No,
Well, no, just take out
it in,
the
you
first part.
yeah,
Just
you
the
take-
first part of it.
Yeah.
If you answered yes, because everybody already
Right,
answered something.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So just get rid of it. Just say, where do you encounter traffic
Yeah.
problems?
Yeah,
Right.
'cause that-
Yeah.
this is great.
Good.
And then 6 follows from that pretty well. And 7.
Well, you could combine 6 and 7. Could just say, share any ideas you may have for fixing or reducing traffic problems. in
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fishkill.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
that's fine.
So just get rid of 6.
Yeah.
Right, but then add the word may between you and have, that you may have for fixing or in question number
Gotcha.
7.
Good.
Very good.
Now we're cooking. All right.
So 8, I was suggesting that it might help to know what percent of the respondents' travel is in each category that they selected, rather than just checking off the ones that they use. That would give us an idea of actually how people get around the town. So,
You mean for them to assign percent?
yeah, so
So
Ooh,
like
I
the
think
other
that's-
one, put it in a category 1 through however many are there, 7, like I mainly drive and barely
Right.
walk, or, and then 2, I, drive mainly and then bike. Maybe something like that is an idea. Is that what you're thinking, Jonathan?
Yeah, well, I thought if we just asked them to put a percent in there, it wouldn't really take up any more room, as long as we explain how we want them to do it. So I'm not sure
I
what the
think that would
wording
be
is,
very
but-
confusing.
Yeah, I think a number wise, like I mainly drive one, then I bike. Like I never been on the bus here, so that would be in a 7. Unless somebody else has another idea.
Maybe it's a
Mm.
first choice to last choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What's your most means of transportation to get around?
yeah.
I mean, if
What
it's
if I say
boats, then you're only picking one then, right?
no? If you said when I want to or have to go somewhere, my first choice would be 2, and then ask them to
Then my
number.
next would be, and then my next would be,
Give them 3 choices.
Yeah, using
Keep
a
it to
number
3.
system of,
What is your
No.
top 3? What is your top 3 ways of
Top
getting
3?
around?
I-
Top
Does that
3,
make
top
sense?
5.
I say top 3.
Okay.
Getting
Yeah.
top 5, somewhere along the line, everyone has either walked, biked,
Right.
hitch a ride, take a cab or something. So you don't want it to be spread out too much where too much data coming in. So you just take the top 3 and we'll work with it. And I think within everyone, we'll get everything together.
And the other thing is, do we want to specify when I want or have to go somewhere in the town of Fishkill?
Yeah. That's a
Because
good point.
If you ask that to me, the answer is going to be I take the train, because 4
Right.
hours a day I'm on a train, but it doesn't start in
Yeah.
Fishkill. It doesn't end in Fishkill.
yeah, when I want to get around in Fishkill, yeah, because we're more concerned about
Mhm.
Fishkill. So yeah, that's a good point.
That is a good point. Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
And we're referring to the town and the village combined?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
You could say the area of Fishkill. If you want to split hairs.
But shouldn't it be already assumed that when you said how do you get around Fishkill, it does include the village,
Yeah.
being that the village is in the town of Fishkill?
But so is the beacon is surrounded by the town of Fishkill.
I was thinking of it a little bit more globally when I wrote this question, so I may be off the mark. So
Well, it's
Um,
really,
so-
yeah, but Liz, it really isn't, because you have to go through Beacon. You have to go through Beacon to get to Dutchess Junction. From
and if
any
you
other part
arrive
of
on a
Fishkill.
train in Beacon, you might end up going someplace in Fishkill, even if you don't live here.
If you don't live here, correct. But if you do live here and you commute, then I mean, overwhelmingly, the most abundant transportation I take is train, and I do absolutely none of that to get around Fishkill. So the
Aren't we
data,
talking about traffic?
if I want to go to CVS, I'm going to drive or walk. That you lose, because my number 1 mode of transportation is train.
So I
Somebody
guess
just
we
asked, aren't we
want to
talking?
know what we're asking with this question.
I thought we were
No,
talking
We
about
want to know
traffic.
whether
How
they're
you get
we're talking,
around.
we want to know whether what are people doing around Fishkill or
Yeah.
in general. I
I
think
thought
we
this
want to
was
know
about-
what's going on in Fishkill. That would be my opinion.
I thought this was about traffic. So
I thought it was about traffic when we first did it.
well, look at
Because the
number 9.
biggest problem we have is traffic, and one of the
Right.
things that we had was traffic.
But so, I mean, in my opinion, so number 8 really is, not that I don't care where else people go, but I would think our interest for this purpose is, how are people getting around within Fishkill?
Right.
Absolutely.
Which
So-
again has to do with the traffic. We want to know what's going
Right,
on.
so
in
I think
Fishkill.
it is important for number 8 to say, when I want to or have to go somewhere in Fishkill,
Right.
and then pick the top 3. Somebody had mentioned that, like, to really put in, I think, Michael, it was you, to put
Yeah.
in Fishkill, because that's what we're talking about.
Right.
got it.
And that gives us a datum of, if drive is the overwhelming one, then
Right,
in our plan, we may want to promote walk, bike, or take a bus.
Right. yeah.
So
And
then
you can
train should
eliminate
come
take
out.
a train.
Yeah, train comes out because we don't have any
Train comes
land
out.
trains.
What else? Does anything else come out?
My $475 a month train ticket, can we get rid of that too? I guess not.
So when
We
I
have no
want to or
control.
have to go somewhere in Fishkill, I pick the top three. Please pick the top three. Not please, just pick the top three.
Yeah.
And the list is okay.
Yeah,
And then number 9 actually follows from that. I think it follows very well because it's talking about getting around Fishkill
Mhm.
again. How would it be easier for you to get around Fishkill? That's what we're trying to get at.
yeah.
Okay.
Going back to 8 for a second, we have a dial a ride, which we pay for,
Okay.
and that's with take a taxi or, or Lyft or dial a ride.
Should I put dial a ride after take a bus?
I don't know what it's actually called, but I know we have it. We pay for it.
Oh,
It's called dollar.
it's called dial a ride? With hyphens or without?
Yep.
I
Scott-
think it's hyphens. I'm not really sure, Liz, now that you say that.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but you also gotta understand, a lot of people take the bus, like if they wanna go from Fishkill, again, okay. I take
Oh,
back
no,
that.
absolutely.
Oh,
Yes.
bus is on there. Keep
Bus
bus.
is there.
Yeah, bus is
Yeah,
there. We keep bus.
Yeah, because if you wanna go like from, let's say, from Main Street to Westgate, to the doctor's office there,
Right.
people still take the bus. I mean,
Yeah.
giving them 3 choices, you say drive, walk, or bike. I mean, you still got to include the bus because that's the only way they get around. I mean, they're not going to put a Superman cape on to go there. I mean, dial a ride.
But that's what it
It's
would
staying
be,
on the list.
pick
An
your
option.
most common 3,
Right.
so if somebody who's taking the bus may not bicycle. So they may say drive, walk, and take a bus. So it's like your
Even get a
preferred
ride from a
3.
friend. Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
It gives you an idea of how people are getting around in the area.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not coming off train. I think it's the only one because that implies
Okay.
Metro North.
All right.
No, bus
right.
stays for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
bus
right.
definitely stays on. Yeah, I think we're only talking about removing the train.
All
Everything
right.
else stays.
Oh, are we asking people to simply check your top 3 or something like that?
Number your top 3.
Number your
from 1
top
to
3.
So like from 1, 2, and 3? Is that?
Yeah.
in the
Number
order?
1 for the favorite,
Okay.
or most favorite, or whatever.
2 for your second favorite, 3 for your
Or
third
most-
favorite.
Or most utilized, yeah.
And you
Yeah,
will be
most
penalized
utilized.
if you check more than 3.
Yeah, we
We'll
throw
put-
the whole thing out. We just take
We'll put you on a train.
Does the I rarely leave home just not get kind of counted in that tally system? Or does it, I don't know where that falls if you're numbering 1, 2, and 3 top modes
Oh.
of transportation.
So
That's a
when
good
you
point.
leave, how do you get around?
Right.
Do you walk?
I'm with
You ride a
you,
bike?
Teresa. I don't leave my house very much, but when I, when I do, that's why it kind of makes me laugh. Like I'm literally spend the majority of my time within like a 2-mile radius of my house.
Right,
Yeah,
and
but
if
it
you
gives you that
walk,
option. It says
we-
you rarely leave anyway, so you
Yeah,
do
it's
have-
on there. I was just wondering what that
Oh yeah, I
does
did
to
see.
your
I did see
tally.
that. Yep. I rarely leave home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a good question.
I was like, because it's not mode of transportation. So if I'm numbering my top 3, I don't know what to choose.
so you
Well,
pick
actually-
I rarely
On
leave
there?
home as one.
What I was getting ready to
Yeah.
say, so you rarely leave home. If that's your majority,
one.
that would be your number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we go on to 10?
Well,
Yep.
We
10,
could do
11,
the
and 12.
gradation.
yeah,
The
guys,
gr-
10, 11, and 12 are all together. Because they all have to do with walking or biking.
Mhm.
So again, is this something where we would want to ask them to pick their top 3? Because I had the same kind of comment on this one.
Yes. Top 5?
So what I was going to say before we go too far is, can we combine 10 and 11 by just asking for suggestions for safer ways to bike or walk versus asking the question whether it's safe to bike or walk? Is that maybe a way to make
That-
it shorter
Yeah.
and combine it and make it simpler? I mean,
It does make it simpler, and I would then put it after 12.
right. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good call.
So
Uh,
basically, that's going to be suggest where or how improvements would help provide safe
Mhm.
opportunities for safe
Right.
biking or
We-
walking in Fishkill.
Right, which
Mhm.
even sounds better than,
Yeah.
combining it and saying it like that.
Right.
And that would be after
Question
after
12.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
12 would be 10.
I would still stick to the top 3,
Yeah.
rather than adding for number 12, because you said top 5, top 3. I would, if we're going to do top 3 for the one prior to it, just for consistency's sake, in my opinion, I think having number 12 be the top 3 as well.
Yeah,
I think that gives people ample opportunity to say where they're biking.
and it gives us more information about what they're doing more of.
Can I throw something out at you guys for number 12?
Sure.
Yeah.
Could you say instead of if available? Because one of the things we have on there is along the old railroad, which is not available right now. And if you're doing it, you're trespassing.
Plus other.
So I just, and I see that as a future, something for the future that we should have in the comprehensive plan, if that ever does become available. So I would say
Well, it
I
says-
use or if available.
It
Well-
says along an old railroad.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of changing that to rail trail, but Fred is correct. It's not a rail trail. And I don't think that's abandoned. I believe.
No, it's
Montford-
active. No, Mike, it's active. It's
Right.
trespassing if you go on it.
And that also means we couldn't do anything about making it a walking or biking trail or putting one next to it.
Until like the railroad abandons it. And right now
Correct.
they're not doing it. And once a year they run a train through it to keep it.
Although that's not to say that people don't use it.
I understand.
Same as the answer of through parking lots or driveways.
You
That's
got it.
private property, so, but people do
Well,
that
and-
too.
And that in and of itself would be very telling also,
And
is
again, I
to
think-
say, we need more.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's a good point, Ann.
If
Yeah.
I can just throw in an example that you've probably all seen, as a planner, having to look and ask people to do sidewalks. Why are we building a sidewalk to nowhere? But I also have been through many commercial areas, and you probably also observe this, that people are walking just inside the curb or sometimes in the roadway if they have to get somewhere. And so a lot of places will have curbing, and then there's grass with a dirt path through it because so many people have walked that way for so long, and that's all they have. So I know these things maybe are illicit. On the other hand, if
Yep.
people are just finding some unsafe way to walk, it shows where people kind of naturally find a pathway that makes sense for them, whether they're getting to work, getting to the
Yeah.
store.
Isn't
And
it,
that
isn't
we
that
need
what
to
we're
find
also
more ways.
asking in the, what used to be 10, 11? Remember we turned 10 and 11 into like a 13 kind of thing? Isn't that what we're asking, how to make it safer?
Right.
Or should, maybe we have to re-ask that?
Well,
about-
some
or we
people
west?
are not
They're
going to
different
even.
questions.
Yeah,
They're
I
different
think some
questions.
people are, when they say I go through a parking lot, they're not thinking twice about, it's like, it's pavement, I'm riding my bike to get from here to there. And it's not, even along somebody's driveway, cutting through something else. So I think I think number 12, which will now be number 10. And then the combination of 10 and 11, which will be number 11 after all the numbering is switched.
Yep.
I think, again, to really learn where people are biking, and yeah, I
see more
do
people,
feel like
yeah,
that's two
safely
separate.
walking. Yeah, but it's a combination.
But
walk
if
or
they're
bike,
if
yeah.
they're already unsafely doing things, say it's a lady in her 80s that
Yeah.
needs to get to the store, she's gonna go across the parking lot, because if you've got a walker,
That's
you're
right.
not gonna go on the lawn, you're not gonna go on the shoulder of the road. So it's a way of trying to find out where are people already going, maybe they shouldn't be because they need something. So
Well,
but
and I think that will open people to answering, suggest where or how to improvements would help, because, these are people that are on the ground and utilizing these pathways, whether they're supposed to be or not. I can just say from my own experience, when I lived down on Route 9, it really was, you're taking your life into your own hands. And I think, just to your point, Liz, that you can see where there is, beaten down grass, especially at that intersection. It's very dangerous.
So then what did we turn question 10, 11 into? Can you reread that?
so right now, I think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, 10 is now gonna say something like, if I walk or bike somewhere, I use, and then it's gonna say, choose your top 3, with 1 being your first choice and 3 being your last choice.
Right. I'm asking the question that then is
And then-
after that.
And then after that, there's gonna be a question 11, and it's gonna say something like, suggest where or how improvements would help provide safe opportunities for safe biking or walking in Fishkill. And it's just gonna be a line for them to fill in.
Can we put like example sidewalks or bikeways in a bracket
Sure.
to give like ideas and
Improvements
Where-
say such as
such
sidewalks.
as sidewalks, bike paths or bike
can-
lanes?
You can take the word safe out from in front of opportunities. You're just looking for opportunities
good
for
point.
safe biking or walking.
Right.
Yep, good.
Because those people who use it, like you said, they're walking there, so they generally have an idea of, and obviously
Right.
they're on the side of the road. They know it's
Of
unsafe.
what would work. Yeah.
And where,
Of what
and
would-
where, and
what would
ultimately
work
that's
for
what we
them.
want. We want to know where these things should go, and people on the street using them know better than we do,
Right.
and that's the information we want.
Yeah, that says it.
I have a question on what was formerly number 12. Why are we limiting it to 3 options? Because I know when I walk somewhere in town, just in one single walk, I'm using probably 4 of these methods.
I think we were just doing it for consistency, but we can number it.
Yeah.
Why not 5?
Sure.
I'm
Five
just
works.
wondering why not just check all that apply.
I think we want to know what they do mainly. I think that
Right.
was the idea behind a numbering system, which again was like we did with the other one, which is actually a good idea. What are you doing mainly?
But Mike, Kevin, it depends
Yeah.
on where I start out. You know that? If I start out from my house, I'm going to be in the road.
Right, you'll be on the shoulder.
I'm on the shoulder. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
You know?
But
And
if you're
I'm-
biking or walking, that is what you do. You are on the road.
I know,
And
but
it's in a
that's where I
neighborhood,
start
right?
from.
It's in a neighborhood road or is it a main road? I mean, I think we have it broken down like that.
No,
Shoulder or side of road, neighborhood road, sidewalks. Yeah, I mean, we can put more numbers in 1 through
10?
5 or.
Teresa, were you the one that was just asking, why don't we let people use all of them?
Yes.
which is how it's applied originally. But when Ann said about the numbering, what you do mainly, I think it gives us a little bit more information of what you do mainly.
Well, what I'm saying is that when I go on a walk from my house, and that is, if that's my main way of using transportation, I'm doing 5 of these pretty equally. It's not necessarily that I'm using one more than the other.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
I'm
I
only
don't think we
gonna be
should get stuck on that.
hyper-metric.
I mean, I think if it's check all that apply, then that's okay. We
Yeah.
can always, I think the combination of 10 and 11 would sort of answer ultimately what it is that we need to have answered, which is like, for using Teresa as an example, Teresa, what would make it safer for you to walk around? And regardless of whether you're going through parking lots, dirt pathways, or, whatever, if you have a suggestion and say, gee, at this particular spot, or, having a light, a crosswalk, or, I think we could probably pull, like, I don't think we should get hung up on that. And if that's something as a walker, you're feeling like checking all that apply makes sense, I think we can glean more information from combining 10 and 11 and not get hung up on former number 12.
I know a lot of people who go to the either Gearing or Shepherd or Doug Phillips or one of the other parks just to do their walking.
Mm-hmm.
There's some of us who have to walk every day to get our exercise.
Yeah, my main place for my walking is the cemetery. That's not.
And the cemetery, correct.
Oh, yeah.
Or the cemetery.
Well, and some of those people probably drive to get there.
We definitely drive to get there.
Right.
Because if I had to walk there, it's enough walking.
Right. Round trip.
Okay, moving on. Let's try and get to
Let's
13.
move it. Let's
So-
leave it as it is.
Are we leaving it
Because we have
check
other-
all that apply?
Yeah, let's just leave
Yeah.
it. That's
Sure.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think we
Yeah.
need to get hung
Yeah.
up on that.
Okay, now we're going on to something new.
Okay.
Is that
And this has
centered
to do
enough for
with
you
the-
guys?
Mhm.
Yeah, yes.
Me personally, I like all of those. They're all open-ended and you can answer them if you want or not.
I agree. The only thing I would add is maybe a top question. Do you think we need to develop more businesses in the town of Fishkill?
But if you're gonna ask if you need to develop more businesses, then we'll be inclined to ask what type of businesses will they like to see develop?
Right, but some people may want to answer, I don't want to see any more businesses in Fishkill. I think it's too commercial as it is. Not that I do, but someone might put that answer down.
Absolutely.
Well,
Really,
That's actually
even-
kind of
you
covered
could-
under 13D. What are your main concerns about new businesses and services? You can just say, too many of them. I'm done.
You
Many
could
banks.
actually combine A and C. I think that those are
Yeah.
pretty close together. I think you could either eliminate A and use C as A. Is that just me, or am I maybe not reading that correctly? It's almost like the same question.
I thought that too when I looked at it.
Well, one of them is where and one of them is, oh, okay, wait a minute.
No,
Just
yeah.
ignore me for a minute.
Yeah. B
No,
is
so
wet.
maybe just keep 13C and get rid of,
A,
Get rid of A, yeah.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow, look at us making progress.
Impressive.
C should go above B then, just because, you know, it seems the flow. Where
Yeah.
would you like to see? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Keep going. You guys are on a roll. And gals.
Yeah, so then it would be C, B, and D. I would keep them just like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then go on
Yep.
to 14.
That sounds good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This, you know, I have to, I mean, you know, who knew Airbnb in Fishkill? Is that a comprehensive plan question, or is that more? It almost seems too targeted. I don't know.
It does seem a little targeted, but it is a concern, I guess, that people are having.
It is a big concern going through. I've been fighting or reformatting some of the Airbnb that's going through the county and making sure it's not too restrictive.
Uh-huh.
All right.
So,
And one of the other things that they do have on it is instead of some people say it's safety is a concern. And I just want to throw that
I
out.
mean, to me, I feel like it's and I don't know about the Airbnbs. So this is, I mean, it could very possibly be legitimate concern. I'm just thinking for a mapped out plan for the next 10 years, you know, so one might look at that and say, well, Airbnb, why is it not, you know, I don't know, restaurants or mining or, you know, specific businesses? Like if they're going to target a specific business, I don't know if the comprehensive plan is the place for that.
Okay.
That came from a committee comment, and that's why I put it in there.
Can I just intervene for a second? How many people here actually operate an Airbnb? Can a show of hands, please?
Hey, Google, turn on that Google.
My guests come from Manhattan. They want to see the Hudson Valley. They love Beacon. They love Fishkill. You want to cut that out? Put it in.
Yeah. A lot of towns are doing too restrictive. And the reason you don't do it with restaurants or the rest of it is commercial. Airbnbs normally don't go into commercial sites. They go into residential sites.
Right. Okay. I'm just curious, like, why would that not be like a legislative issue? I'm just
comprehensive plan.
You could just take the question out, you know.
I'm just saying
It doesn't even belong in the type of plan.
I
we're
think
trying
it's
to
kind of
accomplish.
specific.
Right.
It does seem very targeted.
Can I delete it?
Let me just say, as a planner, it's something that a lot of communities are considering. And a lot of communities are coming up with regulations, not to prohibit short-term rentals, but to control them a little bit better. Because if you look at number 15, it's listing a number of problems that communities typically have expressed about them: parking, traffic, noise, partying, trash. With regulations, communities can control them in a way that can better keep track of where they are usually through a licensing or permitting kind of a system. So it's a misnomer to say that if you have short-term rental regulations, you are prohibiting them. Communities that do that probably won't survive those laws. However, if it's a topic that people in the town are concerned about, it would probably be good to know that and figure out if there's a way that the town could come up with some way of regulating them. Also,
But
it can also be a way of not so much getting revenues, but paying for the regulation by charging fees for applications that come in. So it's similar to many special permit kinds of uses that the town already has. So this is a zoning question. And if you're going to change the zoning, it should be consistent with your comprehensive plan. And the current 2009 comprehensive plan does not talk about this subject. So that's why we might want to consider it. But on the other hand, it is correct that it is perhaps a more targeted topic than some of the others. It's just that it is a hot topic in many communities, so it might be worth consideration.
Oh,
But
and plus, I
Jonathan,
think,
you make a very valid point, and I'm sorry if I squash somebody, but the immediate area for Fishkill and Beacon, for that matter, are transit oriented.
Yep.
Anybody who comes in as a guest, they have an Uber or Lyft.
Yep, it's true.
actually,
So
I
the
think,
traffic is, in my eyes, is not going to be impacted because you still have the lifts and the dial up, if you will, and they're using the train. And I'm a host. I'm on site for the most part. But listen, I understand people have concerns, the noise and such. We don't have that here.
So
I
I
mean, I
think-
guess my point being, and I don't, it doesn't, I guess, right now, to my knowledge, doesn't impact me. So I'm just thinking, to me, if the town is concerned about this, or if residents are concerned about this to me sounds more like a town board issue, or the zoning issue.
wait a
But
minute.
I don't know.
Whoa.
Wait a minute. That's exactly, if the
What
town
our
board
job is.
wants to address it, that's why it is a comprehensive plan issue,
Okay.
and it is a zoning issue. It's exactly a
Okay.
zoning issue.
because you guys are making this plan as a draft to put in front of them to see what they think, and ultimately they'll adopt it. And any codes they adopt will be flow from this. I've already used the existing comprehensive plan to support some of the legislation that's gone through in the last year plus.
So I think
Yeah.
some of the surrounding communities, like Beacon, for instance, I believe they recently did adopt some short-term rental regulations, and others have as well. So
Beacon hasn't adopted yet, but they're looking into it.
they're looking at it. Okay.
So
Yeah.
Jonathan, how would you, where would you put would you put those in a different kind of zone?
No.
Those short-term rentals?
No,
Well,
any
that's-
place there's homes.
Yeah, that's a thing to look at if you were going to start looking at adopting regulations. We're not getting at that level in these questions. It's just a question of, do people think it's a problem worthy of some degree of regulation?
So we keeping those questions?
I don't have a strong feeling about it. I just thought it was something that
Mhm.
probably should go in if it was something that the community was having questions and issues about. And
Yeah.
there's no way to know unless we ask the questions.
Yes,
So
I have,
maybe
I would say that.
right. I have to say, I never thought of it. And now when I see this, I'm like, is it a problem? Those
It-
darn Airbnbs, they probably are a problem. So I
They-
don't know,
they
maybe
can
it's
be.
planting the seed. To me, I kind of looked at it and I was like, yeah, James Walker, problem.
Yeah, I would
I'm
agree
only
to keep
kidding.
it. It is coming up in the communities. So I would agree to keep it in.
Okay.
Leave it in?
well,
Yeah, it's my opinion.
there's three questions. So I would think about maybe just trying to do the same with maybe one or two questions. So is it a problem? If so, should it be regulated? Could
Right.
be one question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that.
Because
You know.
I mean, in my opinion, I saw that and I was like, wow, it's targeted.
Right, because it's three questions. So it's like, yeah, it's like very in your face. I mean, we are doing it with like ways to get around and things like that. But since this is kind of a newer problem, I think that could be coming down the pike. You can say, do you think this is a problem and should it be regulated?
I mean,
And
there
done
are,
with it, and then we could, it could be brought up.
There are other ways of figuring out if it is a problem in the town by people simply bringing it up in their own open-ended ways. So it doesn't have to be in there. It's just for consideration.
What if we kept 14 the way it is?
Right.
And then got rid of 15 and kept 16, of course, renumbered. And 16 would say, if yes, do you think the town of Fishkill should consider adopting local regulations to control the operation of short-term rentals?
Sounds good.
Or I would honestly, I would take the word problem out and maybe just say something to the effect, because that is leading, that's a leading question.
Could you call it issues
So-
instead of problem?
There you go.
In it, right. Do you
Call it an
feel,
issue
you know,
instead of a
are
problem.
short-term rentals, or even just
Concern.
say, should short-term rentals, you know, Airbnb and such, be regulated to control the operation, their operation, something like that. Just very kind of like a broad, I think you should definitely take the word
Yeah, what are
problem
your
out.
thoughts?
So are you just
Yeah,
Just
Change it
16
to
then?
concern. Don't, because issue is an issue. A concern is a concern.
Yeah.
the way I think. Ann
Or do
worded
you
it,
feel
that's
like
good.
it is an issue in the town of Fishkill that that needs regulation?
Wait,
You
Yeah,
know,
but
so
issue always leads you to the
16.
negative thing. I like the way you said it the first time, because issues, concerns, problems, they all are the same, all in the same ship. You know,
Yeah.
so do you have any thoughts on Airbnbs, or the way you worded it the
Right.
last time? I think is best.
Alright,
It leaves
do
it
you-
to the person to make the decision.
Do
Okay.
you feel short-term rentals like Airbnbs should be, or do you feel that the town of Fishkill should consider adopting local regulations for it to control the operation of short-term? I think you should get rid of 14 and 15 and just focus on 16 and maybe tweak that a little bit, because it really did, it seriously planted the seed, you know? I was like, I don't know, maybe it is a problem.
Well, and then you're going to get a yes or no. You don't really need to know what are the problems. You could just find, because you're going to hear
You
that at
feel
the
like,
hearing.
because
So what
sometimes
are your-
people
what
don't
are
give
your
an
them,
open board meeting.
they
you know.
may not be a problem, but maybe somebody feels like, yeah, they should be regulated, like, you know.
But what are your thoughts on
whatever.
regulating, the Airbnbs? What are your thoughts?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you could leave it open-ended. That's a good idea. Just leave it.
Open-ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kenya, that's a good idea.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on short-term rentals like Airbnbs?
Yeah, that's fine.
And just nothing about the regulations.
Well, if it's a
No.
problem,
you can keep that in your question. Yeah.
Are we doing 2 questions? I'm getting lost now. I'm sorry.
Looks like
I
we're
would
trying to
try
get
and
it down
do
to one.
I would really try and do one, because even like Kevin pointed out,
Okay.
even when you have 2 questions on this one particular field, it's like you're inviting that somebody's thinking, oh, this is a big deal here.
it must be a
And
problem that there's 2
It must
questions
be
on
a
here.
problem.
And I
Okay,
got to
hang
check
on.
it out. Versus if it's an open-ended question. What are your feelings about short-term rentals like Airbnb?
Fishkill should consider.
I don't know. What are your
Say it again?
What are your thoughts?
I started with, what are your thoughts on whether the town of Fishkill should consider regulating?
I like adopting local regulations to control the operation of short-term rentals,
You don't know it's a problem.
or maybe take control
Yeah.
out, because
That's
No,
good.
then,
you're
I'm trying
looking
to
for a
shorten it,
solution when
so-
you don't even know there's a problem.
right.
What are your thoughts on whether the town of Fishkill should consider regulating the operation of short-term rentals, Airbnb, Verbo, whatever?
Yes.
I
Can I-
thought it was going to be an open-ended question where you're just at, what are your thoughts on the Airbnb?
Right.
Now we're
Yeah.
asking about regulation. It's
Right,
supposed to be
right, right.
open-ended.
I see what your
Right.
point is.
Oh,
Right,
don't say
That's
regulation.
why I was, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
James seems to have the most experience right now with this out of everybody here.
Your
Yeah,
thoughts?
but
Yeah,
James,
like
it
open-ended.
is coming up in some communities, where people want to, start putting in Airbnbs. And so the communities are having discussions, HOAs and stuff like that. So, again, you may not
Fair
have, I
enough.
don't want to put the thought of anything bad. I don't want to put anything bad. 'Cause I
Right.
don't think we should
That's,
make it
yeah,
that way.
any,
But I
any
think that
insinuation.
it
Yeah.
is something that's coming in the future. So if we're going to be writing for what's coming, I think that that's
Right.
what we need to plan for.
Yeah.
Understood.
And I just want y'all to know I'm having technical difficulties, so I had to turn my camera off and my audio. I'm trying to get home from Mount Vernon.
Okay, so we're
We're
saying
just trying to
then
get the
that
thoughts.
if we just ask for the thoughts on what
Yeah.
their thoughts on Airbnb, we'll get the good, bad, and the ugly, and then we
Yeah.
can take it from there to figure out what needs to be done with it.
Yeah, because you don't want to lead people down that road, of.
Thank you, Glenn.
No problem.
So what are your thoughts on short-term rentals? And then name a few.
There you go.
I.e. Airbnb, VRBO.
That's
Hang
it.
on a second here.
Keep it simple.
Yes. Well, add all the
Yeah,
acronyms because
keep
some
it
people may not know
simple.
what short-term rental
Yeah,
is.
give me the acronyms again. So we're saying Airbnb, Verbo. What else?
VRBO.
Yeah, VRBO,
Yeah,
Verbo,
I think that's enough. And then your et cetera.
etc.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
I think I can read this. I'm glad nobody else has to. Oh,
We're getting there.
Yep.
yes, we are.
18.
Wait, what about 17?
No,
17, whatever.
17.
17.
Well, whatever you
It's
do,
still
numbers,
17
because a
until
lot
we
of your
rewrite.
numbers are gone.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
We'll figure
Yeah,
that out.
You're gonna have to renumber everything.
I'll do my
Oh,
best.
yeah, I didn't
You
see
know
that.
I don't know how to read a calendar, so
Oh, yeah.
17.
I like that.
17, yeah.
Now we're
Alright.
talking about good things.
Good things. That's fine.
always-
It's just an open-ended question. They can answer
Yep.
it or not answer
Yeah.
it. I like it.
17 is good.
Yep.
And 18 is the reverse.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 19 is pretty much the same thing. You got any ideas?
Okay.
That's
I
good.
would sort of govern that one though. I'd almost want to say, what is, oh, all right. No, I'm sorry. I agree.
Yeah.
James.
Do you want to see more circuses or carnivals or something like that? I mean, just an open-ended,
or
wanted
mine.
to shower gold every Thursday,
There you
whatever
go.
I want to put on there, that would be great.
I would like spring to be longer.
Yes.
No, red hats on Friday.
All right.
Um,
Brings us to 20.
For 20, are we going to really be having 5 to 12-year-olds?
Oh, yeah, that's out.
Or do we only want, well, I guess 18-year-olds are driving and getting around, 13 to 18-year-olds.
So you don't
I
want
don't
kids
know.
filling out these questionnaires.
I can
No.
only imagine the hot mess.
Well, the
Who
kids
knows?
might
Maybe
have
they'll
some
put more
nice things
thought
they wanna
into
say.
it.
Fred, I
Well-
don't see your age group on here.
Yeah, it has the plus.
Here's a question. Some communities are encouraging school-age children
To
to
answer.
participate in the planning process.
Yes,
And
because
if
they have
that
some good
happens,
ideas.
do we want kids to be filling out the survey? And if they are, we should probably know that they are.
Here,
Yeah,
son,
we
here's
can
the
leave
key
it.
to the
It doesn't
car. Just
hurt.
don't crash it.
It
I-
doesn't hurt. It's up to 12. You can get some very good input from
Yeah, that's
10
true.
to 12-year-olds. I mean, a lot of them are a lot more insightful than sometimes we give them credit for. So,
I wouldn't be surprised at all if some teachers in, the elementary schools
yeah.
see it and say, hey, kids, let's do the survey and turn them in.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
a bad idea.
And they're generally the feet on the street, they don't, where
Yeah.
they're going and spots that they're cutting through, and
Yep.
yeah, that's fine.
And we have 4 elementary schools that are located in Fishkill,
Yeah.
in the town.
Okay.
So we're good with all of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do we really need 76 to 90, 91 and over?
Yeah, but I prefer. Well,
You
then
wanna
the-
cut them
I
out?
got another one which says other. I want to know what the
sorry.
other one is.
I don't
Some of
know. Is that
those-
like a joke? Like,
Why
You know,
not?
you
Come
never
on.
know. They may
Why don't
be
we
the
just do
wisest of them
65 and over?
all.
What if
Yeah.
Betty White moves here?
Right.
We do. We
No
Ah,
discrimination.
wouldn't that
We don't want
be-
any discrimination. No age discrimination.
There you
up or
go.
down.
There you go.
True.
thank you.
There you go.
I feel like
No.
I'm 21. Does that count?
Not unless you look in the mirror.
For this, we're not going to check your ID if you fill it
All
out.
right, I deserve that, Fred.
But I would eliminate other.
Yes.
Okay,
I
yes.
really would. I just
Could be ageless.
That's right. Only
Yeah,
in
that's
your
it.
own
Hey,
head.
it's, and then you're looking at their education. And I don't see you're looking for male, female, or anything else like that. But I think, Jonathan, you were correct.
That's
Well,
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we get past
Well, we're
20,
there now
I
because
had
we're
some
with them.
suggested other demographic questions that we could add.
Yes. Yes, let's look at that. Well, are we okay with the education level thing or?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Give them the option to do whether they're
If they want to answer it, they can answer
Yeah.
it. If they don't want to answer it, they don't have to answer it.
So
It
do you want to
says they
see
prefer not to
Jonathan's
answer.
other questions? Nice
So-
font.
Did everyone see the my list of other questions that I
Oh,
circulated
yes,
the
I
other day?
did.
Are you you should be seeing it on screen, is it?
Not
No.
yet.
I don't
Not
see it
yet.
on screen.
No.
All right, hang
No,
on.
not
I-
yet. You're still,
This is,
We'll
I've
go back to
But
played,
I did,
hang on.
I did get,
Is that it?
hey, everybody.
No,
no.
We're back to the
Right there.
timeline.
I'm so
You're-
sorry.
that's all
You're,
right.
you're,
Hang
you're at
on.
your download, not Jonathan's.
Hang on, hang on. I guess that makes me 60. Sorry, guys.
That's them.
There we are.
Yep.
So why don't, if you scroll down to like the middle of page 2, starting with the other demographic questions, that might make sense. Yeah. So, I mean, these are just things that a lot of communities use to try to help figure out who's answering the survey and to break down the way answers may have occurred based on a number of these factors. So things like children under 18 in your household is helpful.
This is like a census.
Well, it's not to get the census data. It's more to see how people
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
are filling in the survey.
Okay.
Right.
Household
And their
income
point of
is
view.
always a tricky one. Some people
Yeah.
don't want to answer that, but if we have the question there, some people will, as long as you're using these general categories. I mean, this is a figure that communities have used. The under 10,000, I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to check that anymore, but one or two might.
Well, if they're retired, it might
Yeah,
be.
maybe. Yeah.
And look, I agree because it's telling us who is answering the survey. We will know, we do have the demographics of the town of Fishkill and the village of Fishkill. You know, we have that from the census. But this will tell us of the people who are responding to us.
Right.
To
Yeah.
give us an idea.
And how they respond. So the
Right.
people in that $10,000 to $25,000 range, they're probably doing a lot more walking, biking, or
Yeah.
mass transit. And that gives us a way to look at their answers in a
Yes.
different light.
Yes, exactly.
That look good, that look good.
And the
then,
same with children under 18. That's another thing. How children who can't drive generally get around
Mhm.
is another bit of information that helps skew all of our other questions around.
And then going to page 3, current employment status is usually pretty important. I looked at the list of choices there, and it looks like it covers things pretty well. You got employed full-time, employed part-time or part of the year, self-employed, retired and not working, unemployed, looking for work, unemployed, not looking for work, student.
Hey, I could check all of those.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. And then gender, or I don't know if that's the correct way of asking that question now.
There's
or-
only two answers. I think you need more.
I
you
think
need
I would
more.
leave that
Yeah.
one right off the form, just to avoid any kind of problems.
Yeah, it's not going to slant the answers to I think any of the other things, whether it's male, female, other.
Okay,
I don't really think it's going to give us any more insight, I think, into the answer.
Yeah, you're gonna
So-
get them all the way to the end, then piss them off.
Yeah.
agreed.
And then they rip it off. Then they rip her off and said, the hell with the survey.
We don't want to do that.
No.
Liz, do you want to go back up to the first part, which are more,
Can I at least
Topical.
gather that the under 18, the household income and the employment status are all okays?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 just don't space them as far apart as I did. Because we don't want it to look too long. But those kind of questions are pretty easy and quick to fill out. It's not gonna,
Yeah.
add to the length of time of the survey very much.
Would one of the
Yeah.
questions be, do you have college kids living at home? Just throwing it out. We don't need it, but
Or kids past college living at home?
Let's
That's
see.
a little
well,
more.
you have children living at home.
Yeah.
Did your kids come back home and live in your basement?
I mean, it could also just be how many people are living in your household.
Total household.
Well,
Well,
I mean, because then it would include potentially working people whose retired parents are now living with them, or other people that they're taking care of.
So how
Well,
about adults living in the home? So over 18 versus, because we have a question about under 18 people in the
Yeah.
household. Number of people over 18 in the household
Yeah, that could work.
could be a question.
We do have demographics from the survey on that, but this is for the people who are answering. So we're only looking for what the people who are answering.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just thought that the children under 18 would be ones that might have links to some of the questions we were asking about, transportation and how they get around town and that type of thing. The, college age and adults living in the household. I'm
I
not
mean, you
sure
could
we
have
necessarily
roommates.
need to know how many adults are living in the household.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
So
does
are
it
we-
change how they answered the questions? And if they are adults, they can answer the survey themselves and get
Right,
their input.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. And then also that's something we could probably get demographically, how many
We
people
do.
are, still living in the home. I don't think it's going to affect their other answers per se. Is that what you're saying, Jonathan?
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
So,
also,
yeah,
so the census data that hopefully we can add the actual census data, not in the survey, but a demographic description of the town, in the plan write-up, is not going to be anywhere near as detailed as it used to be in the old days when they did more detailed census questionnaires. So I'm not even sure how detailed. I haven't really looked at the census responses yet, although they've been out for a while. I just haven't looked at them. I don't know how much, additional information we're going to get, but we should take a look at it. And, maybe Liz, you can, well, actually, probably the county has already done some kind of breakdowns of the census data like we've been talking about.
Well, they definitely have it.
So why don't we leave our demographics with the ones we got, which we're adding on the children under 18 and the employment and the income. And then let's move back on to our general questions that we want to ask because it's getting late.
Yeah.
Fred's yawning. You can tell it's late.
Definitely.
It's time for his nap.
So let's see. You want to go back to the beginning of page 1, Liz?
Yes.
Please, yep, there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
So these are just additional questions that I thought of and that I've seen a lot of comprehensive plan surveys include. We can go through them quickly and see what you think about them. But so, should the town encourage housing for moderate income residents? And then the way they do these a lot of times is with the strongly encourage, discourage, or strongly discourage, making it pretty simple and actually pretty easy to analyze.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. There's should the town encourage senior housing? Mixed use developments, which could include mixes of housing, stores, services, offices, etc. This one I thought was particularly interesting. Use of tax dollars for adding or improving sidewalks that lead to stores or services, etc.
That one I'm kind of ambivalent about. If you say we're going to use tax dollars, a lot of people might just automatically say, no, God, no more taxes, please. But if you do something like, should we improve the sidewalks? Most of those people will say, yeah, we need better sidewalks. Just
should the town
remind them they're going to have to pay taxes for it.
Yeah, so maybe rewording it from should the town add or improve sidewalks or work to improve sidewalks, add and improve sidewalks.
Isn't that
In
already covered in
neighborhoods.
the questions we already have?
Well, it's kind of related, but it's a little more
Because-
focused because
Yeah, I think what you're getting at is because you can get sidewalks from when people develop new, that you require them to put the sidewalks in. So that's not the town doing it. That's the town telling people they have to do it versus the town themselves investing money into it. I think that's what you're going with, right, Jonathan?
yes, and you can tell us what you think, but a lot of communities are using this form of the wording support use of tax dollars for doing X, Y, and Z. You'd be surprised at how many people strongly support things like sidewalks, even knowing that it's going to increase or affect their tax payments. If they feel strongly enough about a topic and they think it's important enough, and they say, yes, we would support use of tax dollars, it's pretty interesting, the responses you might get. But I wouldn't object to taking the word tax dollars out of it and just saying, like you had suggested, would you support the town
Investment.
or improving sidewalks or however you want to word it.
I actually like the use of tax dollars in the wording of this question because it doesn't say specifically that we're going to increase your tax dollars. It's just saying that we're using your tax dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's just asking, like, we want your input. We're going to be spending money. Where do you want this money to go?
Mhm.
And also, I mean, it gets more complicated than that because usually when communities do use local tax dollars, they're also adding grants that are available to help pay for those things. But you don't want to get that complicated in a survey like this.
And it becomes a capital improvement for the town, so it's really not
Yeah.
for an area, it goes over the whole base, including people who already have sidewalks.
Kenya, are you still on? Or did we lose
Yes,
Kenya?
yes.
So what would you think about wording it with the use of the tax dollars in there?
No, I like that. I like the use of the tax dollar.
Okay.
I do too.
All right, so then going down to E, we're getting into
The future.
how important is the development of renewable energy sources, solar and wind? How important are green building practices and energy efficient buildings? Pretty basic things, but they are things that I think we talked about, hopefully adding some sustainability factors into the comprehensive plan that weren't so much in the 2009 plan, and these are pretty key areas of that. So, and they're pretty straightforward. Most people, know what they are and have specific ideas about them.
Especially New York City is now doing it too, with the council's not going to be voting on it their next meeting. They make everything green.
And I think it's important because we are so very developed that we do have to worry about the future with everything. So the only thing I was thinking at looking at all the different questions is seeing if we can shorten everything up by going, for the following questions, use the number 1 through 5, 1 being strongly support, 5 being totally not important, 3 being neutral. And then do it that way. It might shorten everything and make it easier to answer. That would be the only thing I would think about. Other than that, I love all the questions.
But I would say just 1 through 4 because we only have 4.
1 through 4.
Yeah, I love it.
Some of my things had 5 is why I thought 5. Oh no, you're right, just 4. So 1 through 4. Sometimes they do 5 because they give you that middle one, which is indifferent. I don't care either way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out and protest, but
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes they'll show a scale, and so they'll actually have like a little bar graph showing 0, 1, 5, middle.
Yeah, I've just done surveys when they used to do it via the phone, and that's what they did. They did 1 through 5. The middle one being I don't care either way. And usually when I was younger, when I used to do them, it was always that middle one because
none of the above.
None of the above, right? It was that. I don't care either way. Well, you do what you want to do.
And I do believe all his questions have to do with the next 10 years.
Yes, and that's actually why I like them. And we do kind of
vision, a little bit of vision.
Yeah.
The previous questions really had to do with traffic and commuting and everything else, and really nothing else.
No,
there's really emphasis that way.
We kind of have 3 where it's like 1 through 7. What's most important to you, which kind of is similar to Jonathan's, but his are much more broken down to the future. What we want for the town in the future with the newer technologies and environment. I think. My opinion.
So Liz, do you think you can format that? Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think the reformatting it will make it simpler and a lot less space on the sheets.
And gives
Are
us
you
a
talking
map.
about just this set of questions, saying for the questions below, give a number 1 through 4 based on this scale? 1 would be strongly encouraged.
Yeah,
2
but it can be 1 through 5.
It can be 1 through 5.
It can be 1 through 5. So if somebody picks 3, they're in the middle.
Yeah,
as Kevin said. But and that say, strongly agree or strongly disagree, and just leave it in the middle.
So strongly encourage would be a 1. How do you want to do that?
I would give 5. I would give 5 the strongest agreement.
Gotcha. Okay.
And 1 the least agreement.
Fine.
Right.
That's kind of right.
From the highest to the lower.
Yeah.
Got it.
Liz, do we have any other questions that were asked from some of the other members?
I don't believe so, because when you see how much got crammed into the revised draft, that was me going through all kinds of different comments. And sometimes we'd be talking about the questionnaire, but then we'd get off on a topic. So that tracked changes draft that you saw was me trying to put in anything that I believed based on the committee's comments needed to be in the survey as a question.
Chris,
Did we miss something? Did I miss
I
something?
don't know. I remember seeing something and I don't remember when. Maybe it was the first draft. I don't remember. But we said about the different parks that we have and the different amenities that we do have in the town if the people use them.
I think
And I
we
don't know
kind
if
of
we wanna
covered that with where with our map, with where do you
Yeah.
spend your leisure
Yeah, but
time
that-
kind
yeah,
of question.
Yeah, but that's where you go. But I don't know if people really know how many people really use the parks, use splashdown. We had all that. I thought all that stuff was in there somewhere along the way.
We
Especially-
kind of have what do you like, don't we? And then what you don't like.
Yeah, but that's just about the town.
I
But
think
that
you were,
would be one of the things that you like about the town or not?
I guess,
yeah,
I don't
know.
remember that question. I mean, I
No.
think if we started to throw something like splashdown in somewhere that
No,
would be.
okay, but again, we have 4 or 5 town parks.
Brad, I think you were thinking about one of the draft vision statements that I think the one that Liz drafted up had a list of things like that in it. So that,
Oh,
that
okay.
wasn't the survey.
Okay, Jonathan, I just said I remember it. It's all right. Do we want to cover anything about the parks in the town?
Do we
Oh.
need to?
Yeah,
I
what
don't know.
do we want to learn from the public about the parks?
I think we're leaving a lot of open-ended questions in there. So if parks are an issue, that they can put it in there. So we have a lot of questions is I think where I'm coming at this from.
Okay, I have no problem.
And to leave open-ended questions where, if something's bothering you, you are a big sports addict and you need, you think that our sports fields or parks need something, then you would put that on there if it was really that important to you in the needs category, in that open-ended slot is how I see it.
Well, that's something we can cover in the when we do the rest of it.
Yeah, again,
Like I said, the rail trail, I'd like to see developed if it becomes available. All right. I mean, there's other things going on. All right. I am concerned with the Chevron or Texaco property. And I know part of it way back, the town wanted to get not where the main plant is, but their old recreation area. To get that towards recreation again. Make it, part of the comprehensive plan. If somebody wants to develop, that's what we'd like to see done.
I think what's going to happen is you're going to have the survey. You're going to get a lot of opinions from that. You're going to end up writing the plan. You're going to do the social platform. And I think the survey is going to give you a lot of input from people that's going to lead you to what do we need to really ask them on the social pinpoint platform or something like that. And if it's a map thing, they could have an opportunity to lay down a comment right on a location. Maybe it's a park. But the other thing that's going to happen even later than that is when you start drafting a plan and it says things that you think should be done, that's when people are going to jump up and say, hey, wait a minute, how come you didn't put this in there? Or I don't like this idea. I mean, that's the public hearing. I think your plan focuses too much on this and we should do more on the parks or that kind of. So there'll be rounds of this, hopefully, by the time anything is even close to being adopted.
Yeah, Liz, I'd like to ask you another question. It's about the downstate prison. Since we met, we've been informed that is closing. And that's in the town. And I don't know.
That's a lot of jobs.
Well, besides the jobs, what's going to happen with the property? And
I think
it is state-owned property, so That's very good.
Unlike the prison in Beacon that was closed, that's still sitting there 9 years later, I think the state does have some plans for downstate. They haven't quite put forth everything that they're going to do with it yet, because it's not stated to be fully closed until March 31, which is the end of the state's fiscal year. So as it gets closer to the end of the state fiscal year, which is March 31st, you'll know more as to what they have planned to do with it. A lot of people don't realize that the Fishkill jail, which is in Beacon, supplies most of the power and water and utilities down to downstate. So whatever they're going to do with the property, it's still going to have to be a part of the Fishkill Correctional Facility.
Well, I agree, but again, what they're going to do is develop in the next 10 years all of that. And that comprehensive plan that we're looking at, I think, is basically going to be a 10-year plan. So should we be considering something like that? And if besides downstate,
Do we even have jurisdiction over that because it is state property?
I don't think we do.
I don't even think we have a call on having any kind of jurisdiction on it. If it's state, state's going to do what they're going to do, whether we have a comprehensive plan saying you can't do it or not.
Well,
is my opinion, and so far as I know, stop me. You guys have more experience, I think, in that.
Jonathan, what is it?
Do what it's going to do. I mean,
it's not going to be like a base that gets redeveloped or anything like that. It's a completely different thing, and it would have to go through a process before anything could be done with it.
Yeah, and they might
So it went
ask
into
the
other
town's
hands.
input, but if we don't agree with it, they're going to put in what they want to put in. So I don't know. And we can't. I mean, we don't know what the state's going to do. They might even just decide to reopen it because there's too much pressure that we want to keep it. It doesn't even make sense why they would close it anyway, looking at all the numbers on it. But we have to move forward with a comprehensive plan, and I don't think it would encompass.
Right. So I think that if we just make a note of it and keep it on the radar, if something should happen during this process, then we could address it. So at least we don't lose it. So just make a mental note of it.
Right. And it's not going to affect
or document it somewhere.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not going to
at minimum,
affect this questionnaire that we're moving on with. So
at minimum, the comprehensive plan should say something like, well, I mean, there should be a statement in the plan about, we understand that the correctional facility will be closing in March of 2022. The town should strive to work with the state on redeveloping that property in ways that will benefit, the residents of the town and the region. I mean, at minimum, I say there probably could be more we could say about it, but we definitely have to recognize it and include it in the plan somehow.
right, but what I'm trying to say is we're working on the questionnaire. So unless we're putting it in the questionnaire for tonight, let's move on.
No,
Right, it
It's late.
Right,
It's late.
written into
Okay,
the
we're here for the
timeline.
questionnaire. If it's not going in the questionnaire, we could talk about this. We can put it on the slate and come back another time.
No.
I understand that it's an issue. I would like to hear what the town folks' ideas for what they would like to see there if it's closed. But right now, I don't think it can go into questionnaire. We don't know what the state's going to do. It's up in the air. There's a lot of things. It's politics. It's beyond us. Let's get done with agreeing to this questionnaire and moving on for tonight.
Yeah, and I think what I just heard Liz say about 10 minutes ago now was that there are a lot of other ways, platforms we can use besides the survey to get into a number of these issues that need to be addressed in the plan.
Right.
And the correctional facility is one of those.
Right.
That's
And
all.
the public can say whatever they want, whether it makes sense or not.
Right.
Seriously, they'll have a chance to say on this location at the prison, you should turn that into a mixed use development, or I don't know. They can say whatever they want.
A playground. I want a playground. Ferris wheel.
Climbing walls.
Climbing walls. I love it. An adventure park. An escape room. Come on, that's perfect.
So seriously, could I bring up maybe what would be a closing question, that since we only got really through the survey and the timeline tonight, didn't even talk about the vision statement or moving forward with some of the other things. And the next meeting on the timeline for the committee was not until February. Should we be thinking possibly about adding a meeting other than with the town board
do that.
sometime in January?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have
Otherwise, we're
to
gonna
now
get,
because we have to do the, right.
We have to finalize this questionnaire, I know, which is, you know, with the map and everything else, I'm sure will be more work as well.
Wasn't there a meeting on there for January 19th?
Yeah, but maybe that, let's see, hang on. I think I'd memorized this, but,
I didn't print that up.
review of comprehensive plan update with town board. Well, maybe that should just be a committee meeting. But then it would be a different date.
yeah,
We have, maybe that should just be another comprehensive plan update committee meeting.
yeah.
And we postpone that. And then, hang on a second. So let me just see. Get out my phone, look at the calendar. Greg, are you still there? Are you listening?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, so I'm assuming in January that January 5th is going to be an organizational meeting like most
That's
town
correct.
boards.
That is our reorg is January.
So then January 12th,
January
be-
12th would be an acceptable meeting for any town board member in terms of there not being a conflict with the town board. But I would recommend that
I'm
we check
actually
in with the
thinking
incoming
it's
board
gonna be
members.
it's just going to be a committee meeting. We're not going to have a town board.
Oh, right, but I am assuming that incoming town board members will be participating, and it would be prudent for us to confirm their availability for that evening.
So the 12th, they
Yes,
might
for the
have
12th.
another town board meeting, you think?
No, there's no town board meeting set for the 12th of January, but it would be prudent to confirm that that particular Wednesday is agreeable based
Okay.
on any other schedules they may have.
So then a CPU committee meeting in January could either be the 12th, possibly, and the only other meeting date could be the 26th.
The 26th, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so do we tentatively want to close tonight in expectation of convening again on January 12th with that date subject to change based on necessity?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I make that motion.
Yep.
All right, and is there a motion to adjourn? Or is there further
I'll second.
business?
I sec.
Okay, with that moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The Comprehensive Plan Update Committee stands adjourned. Happy holidays to everyone from the town. And we look forward to speaking with you again in January.
And thank you all.
Thank
You're
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Good work tonight. Good work
Night,
tonight.
night.
Happy
Happy
holidays,
everything.
everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
And
Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Merry
That's
Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that good stuff.
Okie dokie.
Signing off.
Here you go.